if I were to come to Enfold again, which I hope to and plan to one day when I'm ready, I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm going to do 5-MeO. I would say I'm going to have the Enfold experience. And the first thing I did when I saw my dad was like, I was crying. I went up to him and I hugged him and I said, Dad, I don't want to fight with you anymore. The reason I actually came to 5-MeO was because...
Welcome to the Still In It podcast, 5-MeO DMT Stories. My name is Steve Rio, and the fact that you're hearing my voice means that today is a unique episode featuring me and my guest. Normally you'd be hearing from Arthur or one of our other facilitators at Enfold, but I'm excited to be with you today to talk about real stories around 5-MeO DMT, the preparation, the experience itself, the integration. So thanks for being with us, and we'll see you on the other side.
This podcast is brought to you by Enfold, offering the world's most comprehensive 5-MeO DMT program. To learn more, visit enfold.org. That's enfold.org, or click on the link in the show notes.
We are here.
We are here.
Lana, welcome.
Here.
We are here.
Yes.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Enfold.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It feels so amazing to be back.
I know, it's so nice to have you here.
Yeah.
What is it like being back in this space?
It's amazing. Yeah, it's such a special place. Like we were just talking about how you can, the plants are thriving on the good vibes in here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really energetically clean space for me. So whenever I come in here, I'm just like, and of course there's the memory attached of doing the work on the mat right there.
Yeah, like right here, basically.
Opening up your eyes and seeing the light. Yeah, it's really, really something to be here. Yeah.
Cool. And so we, you were interested in doing this and we were interested in doing this because it's about almost exactly a year since you were here in your journey. And I feel like at the end of every intensive, we always say to people, don't worry, this medicine is a process. It's going to keep unfolding. And a lot of people, I feel like, don't really know what that means. Mm-hmm. And it's different for everyone, obviously, but you've definitely been through quite the process. So maybe we start there. I mean, if you had to just summarize it, I'm sure we'll get into lots of nooks and crannies of it, but is there a way to summarize the past year?
Mm-hmm. The word that comes to mind is expansive. I feel like it's just been this massive, continuous expansion in every way that was initiated by the medicine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In so many ways, like expanding past limiting beliefs, expanding beyond the blockages in the heart, expanding beyond like what I think is possible in business, in relationships, in life. It's kind of felt like a dream in some ways. There's been so many moments this year where I'm just like, wait, what's happening? Wow. As in, it feels surreal to be alive a lot of the time. Like my gratitude for life is just so present.
Yeah, that was such a big part of your ceremony too. I remember that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so much gratitude that has just like been there. And I think feeling it so much in the ceremony space, again, like it just triggered this process and this opening where that's kind of my default mode. Like there's just a lot of gratitude and love. And I feel like every single day I think about how just lucky I feel to be alive and grateful for all the things that I get to experience and have and like share this experience of life with. Yeah, it's been expansive in the heart space in that way.
Wild.
And then the other thing that I would say to summarize it is that it's been like surprising, challenging. There's been like plot twists. There's been a lot of, there was like moments of deep challenge. Of like really facing limitations and like facing those old programs and working through them. But I will say that the way that I've been able to work through them has changed significantly, which I'm sure we'll chat more about.
Yeah. I'm curious. you've done iboga, and you've obviously done ayahuasca, and coming out of this experience, did you anticipate this kind of process to take place in the way it did, or did that kind of take you by surprise, or?
It definitely took me by surprise. Yeah. I would say that this integration period has been the most like full on. I feel like every day when I woke up and got out of bed, it was like, okay, we're integrating. It's just been present in every single aspect of my life, in every moment, in every facet, because I think 5-MeO is so energetic, like way more energy based than any of the other medicines. And I didn't anticipate that it would be this full on. I really didn't. My call to 5-MeO was very spontaneous. I think you and I had a catch up call, and I was talking to you. And in that moment I was like, I think I want to do this. I think I'm ready. It's something I had been kind of curious and contemplating. And then it must have been something about your energy and reconnecting with you and reconnecting with Enfold. And I kind of just went into it. I didn't consume a lot of trip reports at all.
Yeah, you came in pretty fresh or clear. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is such a great way to come in. The trip reports are great. And I think it's so great what you guys are doing with the Still In It podcast to give people a platform to share. But my rule is once I've decided to do the medicine, no more trip reports. I think the trip reports are great for getting you to a point to expand you and inspire you.
Know if you're ready or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not to overdo that, right?
Not to overdo it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the trip reports, I think especially for 5, but probably for all the medicines some way. Obviously, everyone's going to have their own experience with a medicine. So too many trip reports just start to confuse you. It's like this. Oh no, it's like this. But 5, I also feel like it's very rare that you experience 5 in the way we do it. So we always tell people don't really listen to the internet because that's not what it's like.
Yeah. I mean, what you guys are doing is so different. What is being done here is it's 5-MeO, but it's not 5-MeO. Everything around the experience here is just so different than if I were to come to Enfold again, which I hope to and plan to one day when I'm ready, I wouldn't say oh, I'm going to do 5-MeO. I would say I'm going to have the Enfold experience because there's a whole experience around it that has been created that is just the more that I sat with the whole experience and went through the integration process, I can really see that doing this medicine in this way, in this place, with these people, with this framing, it made the impact of the medicine as profound as it was.
Yeah.
That's my estimation, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. And also with your own work and everything that I think we often start thinking, I'm going to go do this medicine. But what you're actually doing is walking into someone else's energy and space. And it's to me, all medicines, they have a profound impact. And 5 does this whole energetic nervous system thing, which we'll talk about. And you're walking into the energy and the facilitation and the connections of the space you're in, right? And that has a huge impact. So I think anytime you do any medicine, it's the medicine, and then it's what is the actual human interaction and connection, and what are the nervous systems around you, and what's the framework and all those components.
Yeah, it's the medicine plus you, how you're coming in,
totally.
Plus the container, which is the facilitators, the space, the framing, and all of that. The medicine is if we're giving each part of that equal weight, the medicine is a third of that.
Yeah.
Right. There's so much that goes into transformational work beyond doing psychedelics. And that's what I'm passionate about sharing with people. But yeah, there's just so much more that goes into it. And I think the more we know about that, the more we can prepare ourselves to have transformative experiences with it. Yeah.
And the right medicines at the right time, and really know how to evaluate the spaces we're coming into, right? You've done such a good job with your work helping educate people about what to look for and what to think about, and that's what Still In It is for. That's what all of our public facing stuff is for too, to just help educate and kind of rise the market up of people that are coming into this space to help them not come in so raw, because a lot of people are just bouncing into some pretty wild experiences.
Oh yeah. Yeah. People go into 5 not even knowing what it is.
Did you have any of those types of early experiences where you didn't really know what you were seeking? And
I'm such a chicken, actually. I have this psychedelics platform, and like people think like, oh, she must be like such a psychonaut that like does like huge hero doses, and like I'm actually such a chicken. Like you saw me on the ceremony day, I was terrified. Like I still get terrified of expanding my consciousness and going into unknown states. Like I'm not like this like fearless psychedelic warrior that people might think that I am. And so I think because I'm such a chicken, it's kind of prevented me from going into experiences blindly. Yeah. So I can't say that. I think like most of my forays into psychedelics have been very much like for specific reasons. Yeah.
So coming back to 5, you came into this experience. You had I remember when you sat on the mat, you had written, I think 4 or 5 intentions.
Yeah. And you were like, yeah, okay.
It's like, read them. That's good. And good luck. But I do think like some of those have been really relevant in your integration too. So like a couple like, let's jump into nervous system work. Cause I think for you, that's a really pronounced aspect of what happened for you. And I think that's one of the biggest differentiators with 5. Right? Is like what happens in the nervous system level. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like your nervous system, like externally looking, I was mentioning to Austin last night after you went to bed, I was like, wow, your energy is so calm. Like it's externally, you can really feel it, but I'm just curious, what's the internal experience of that? And like,
I feel that I had so much excess energy in my body, and the 5-MeO experience allowed me to release it. Like I had the full on somatic release in terms of tremors, shaking, screaming. Like it was a massive energetic release for me. And so, of course, immediately after the ceremony, you're just like, what the fuck just happened? I have no idea. But I've had like really a year to sit with it. And what I think happened for me is that release of energy was able to take place while I was completely defenseless. And I love how you described it once, like it really stuck to me. You said 5-MeO allows the nervous system and the body to just do what it wants to do without the ego and your defenses getting in the way.
100%.
And I've been sitting with that so much this year. And I truly think that that's what's happening. Backstory about me is that I went through a war with my family in former Yugoslavia when I was 6 months old to about 5. And we weren't in an immediate war zone that entire time, but there's so many of my needs as a child that were not met, which I don't blame my parents for, of course. It just was the way that it was. And I'm sure there was tons of like, bombs and bullets and noises and
just
chaos.
Deep energy of fear that's like just seeping into this little tiny nervous system, right?
Yeah, it's like the fear mixed with confusion, mixed with like, why am I not being cared for in the way that I need to be cared for?
Right.
And coming to Canada as immigrants, there was an aftershock of that where like, parents are like, trying to figure out how to make a living in a country where they don't speak a language. And so I think for me, there was a lot of suppressed energy of fear, unworthiness, and like really questioning my worth and like whether I deserve to have what I want to have in life, because it was really hard for me to get what I wanted and what my heart desired. So that energetic release was something that just needed to happen to clear that excess energy for me. And the interesting thing that has unfolded for me this year is that reset, I had such an intuition that, okay, to meet all of my intentions and to really live the way that I want to live, my main role in integration is to maintain that balanced nervous system. So one of the main messages for me was to just receive. And I very intuitively understood that in order to receive, I just must have a nervous system and a body that is regulated, because that's what makes me open to receive, right?
Yeah.
When you're like all wound up and tight and you're holding on to excess energy, then like you're constricted and it's simple energy, right?
Yeah,
it's
100%.
energy. You're not open.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing about 5-MeO is that the integration's been really hard, but in a lot of ways it's been really seamless and effortless because the nervous system relaxed and got that reset. All I had to do was maintain that.
Yeah.
And actually the body over the last year has shifted its preferences so much.
Wow.
I sleep incredibly well now.
Yeah.
I sleep with no alarm, which I'm lucky to do,
Right.
given that I work for myself. I do not drink caffeine anymore. And if I do, it's like once a week, a matcha. That has been really helping. My sugar intake has gone down. And this is all just like,
it's almost like automatic, right? It's
yeah.
like the system just goes, oh, no, thank you anymore.
It's just too sensitive to it now.
Yeah.
And then of course it takes, like, I have to be consciously aware of it and like make those decisions in the moment. But it's been a lot easier to make those decisions because I'm like, oh, I think one of the things I said was like, I'm ready to live like this.
Right.
I'm ready to live open and relaxed.
Yeah.
And so that's been integration on like that very like physical human level. There's not much like intensity and pushing and trying. It's like really just allowing myself to rest into being and trusting and knowing that that's enough, which has been huge for me because I'm a core energy coach. And so I coach energy, and I'm literally coaching people into that space of being and trusting.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to have this next level expansion into that myself, because I have a deeper understanding of it. Yeah.
So cool, because as you explain that to people, the energy that is explaining it is coming from that place. So the vibration of your coaching has changed, I'm sure, a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Oh, I was like fully booked in my practice at one point this year, which is the first time that that's happened. And yeah, it's pretty profound to show up to sessions in that way.
Yeah.
Just knowing that just my presence is enough.
100%.
And to trust that moment.
Yeah. It feels like in a lot of ways you've been stepping into a fuller version or a truer version of yourself, you know, and you said something that was funny. You said it's like, I've been doing lots of non-psychedelic integration things, you know, like getting into clothing or getting into just different lifestyle things. And it was funny because I think that's actually just finding out what you love and being mindful and conscious of your life, you know? Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah. A big part of that for me has been like actually calling back these parts of myself that I abandoned because, you know, I didn't think they were like psychedelic or spiritual or meaningful. Or
you had yourself in some box, right? Like, yeah, totally.
Yeah, a box where I was wearing the costume, like literally wearing the costume, and then figuratively wearing the costume.
Right.
And I feel like this year I've just... oh my gosh, yeah, just allowed myself. Like I've spent so much time in my wardrobe this year. I've spent so much time in the kitchen this year. It's been beautiful. It's been beautiful to just like let myself do what I actually want to do. I love, like I'm having such a thing right now with style and fashion and clothing and like curating and building the wardrobe that I want to build. And people probably hear that. And I know I would have heard that years ago and been like, wow, that's really like shallow and whatever. And that's not meaningful. But I think like we're the ones who give meaning to anything. And so if it's meaningful to me and I can make it meaningful, then it's something worth pursuing.
Yeah.
So like, that's that inner orientation that you guys talk about.
Totally.
Like it's shifted towards that. And where the 5-MeO comes in with that is back to that like gratitude for life. There's such a sense of like, it's not that like time's running out and I'm afraid of death, but it's this feeling of I really want to make the most out of every moment in every way.
Well, yeah, like soak up the richness of life, right? Like that just sounds like creativity to me and an outlet for creativity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Creativity and expression and honestly, like self-reflection. I've learned so much about myself and who I am through my journey with like clearing out and restocking my wardrobe this year. It really takes like having a hard look at yourself to really build something that is a reflection of you in any way, whether it's your wardrobe or a business or a relationship or a friendship.
Or your home or the way. Yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's been a lot of human stuff. Yeah.
Human stuff.
We like human stuff. Yeah.
Which, it's so interesting because a big part of the way we've always thought about our work is helping people understand that spirituality is actually just connection to your life, connection to all aspects of your beingness, right? Like, and my journey with this medicine has been in some ways a reversion back to my teenage self in so many ways, in all the best ways. Like I'm actually much more mature than I've ever been and more confident and more, I would say like more a man, like being an adult. And I have this whole kid side to me that's back. And music's a part of my life, and dressing the way I want is a part of my life, and just having fun and telling jokes. And it's been such a joy to step back into, it really does feel a lot of stuff like I just gave up after being a teenager. I come into 20s and like, oh, I got to be an adult now. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, oh no, you can still be an adult and enjoy what lights you up, Yeah. It's been super cool.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So coming back to the nervous system thing, you like, I remember your ceremony. You were so ready for this medicine, I think, right from the very lightest dose, you went into full somatic release effectively. Mm-hmm. Your body was fully ready. I'm curious though, coming out, and you said some parts have been rocky or challenging. I got to imagine that coming back to your life with a new nervous system effectively, or kind of resetting and having to readjust. What's that been like? What's been challenging about that, or what's been easy about that? I don't know.
The reason I actually came to 5-MeO was because of that war trauma and all that energy pent up inside me. I was like incredibly sensitive to sounds and lights, like would go into full on fight or flight mode if like a car drove by outside and it had a really loud engine. I was living in this constant state of dysregulation. Yep. And that was really my main call to 5-MeO, because I think I knew what the issue was, but no other medicines were able to, like, I actually got the answer from Iboga. Like when I was in my Iboga ceremony, I asked like, is my nervous system fried from the war? And it was just like, yes, yes. But then it didn't really like, I got the answer, but then it doesn't
actually do the nervous system thing, right?
Yeah, which is why I love, like, it's cool how the different medicines all work together.
100%.
So that was like the main thing I came here for. And so, going back to life with like a regulated nervous system, the main thing was like honoring it enough to maintain it.
Yeah, that's such a big part.
Yeah.
I know you've been really, like you said, parts of your integration are just natural and easeful, but I know that also you were really conscious of not doing more big medicine sessions, and you're really conscious of changing a bunch of lifestyle things up and keeping things slowed down a bit, and really managing that.
Yeah. Not doing any medicine has been interesting.
Yeah.
Because for about a 5-year period, I was in it.
Yeah, you were kind of like big journey every few months or something like that.
For a while, I was doing like ayahuasca ceremonies every month.
Oh yeah.
And then
kind of
like I did like Iboga, which was massive. And then I did like Shipibo ayahuasca 6 months later, which looking back on that, I'm like, that was crazy.
Right.
And then, after 5-MeO, I haven't felt like, sure, there's been like recreational nights out and like recreational doses and stuff, but I feel that the Enfold experience just gave me so much to work with and integrate. And like, I'm like honestly still working with it. I have a medicine session planned for like March, April 2025. And even with that, I'm like, let's pencil it in.
So that's like 4 months from now.
That's 4 months from now. And I'm like, let's pencil it in. But if we're like a month out and I'm not ready for it, I need to honor that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not doing any more medicine has been really impactful.
Yeah. There's also been a whole component, I think, for you of looking at limiting patterns and being in the mind, but how how does your energetic experience translate into the way we think about it is like there's nervous system and there's personality system, and they're two different, and there's a spiritual system as well. But the personality system is your limiting beliefs and the way you show up and the way you think. Like, I think one thing this medicine does to maybe clarify is bring a level of clarity and awareness to certain aspects of your limiting beliefs that can be really confronting for people. I think that's another thing that why people sometimes don't get as much out of this medicine as they'd like, is that it's kind of like, oh, wow, I can really see myself, and it's a lot, and you have to process a lot. So what's that been like, kind of looking at all those limiting beliefs, or looking, however language comes up for you there?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm a coach. So like limiting beliefs is like what I eat, sleep, breathe all day, every day for myself and my clients. So it's something that like, I call myself like an energy ninja in that way, where it's like really easy for me to spot that out in myself and others. So I just want to preface my answer with that, because that's kind of where I'm coming from. Like, I've been working on the limiting beliefs and the stories and those like, deep gremlins inside, that unworthiness wound that I call for myself for many years. What 5-MeO did was it brought that to like, I think the highest possible level, where it was just like, what are all of the ways that you are not coming from love? And I remember you said that when I was still here. I was like, yeah, like I just gotta keep living from this like flow of love in my heart. That's what integration is gonna be. But I don't know how to do that. And I remember you said to me like, well, you just need to recognize all the ways you're not doing that. And that really stuck with me. And I've been doing that. And I genuinely don't think that there are many moments where things get by me anymore where I don't notice like, oh, there's an energetic misalignment from love in this moment, where I'm not showing up as that person who is living from her heart. Another major thing that 5-MeO unlocked for me was the power of heart-centered living, and just allowing all of the things in my life to flow as freely as love can when my heart is unlocked and when my heart is unblocked. And my integration areas have actually been like business and finance, which was one of my main intentions, around abundance and,
being worthy of
immigrant
abundance.
Money struggles, to be honest.
Being worthy of money.
Yeah. And so the way that looks in the everyday is catching myself when I'm actually closing myself off from receiving money, receiving clients, receiving partnerships, receiving opportunities that could be expansive in some way that might lead to money in the future. And, I'm talking about money right now, but it's all so connected.
I know it often feels kind of like weird to be talking about money, but money is a beautiful symbol of, do I allow energy in?
It's money is energy.
Do I welcome energy in? Do I welcome in worthiness? Do I welcome in valuing myself? Do I welcome in like honoring my time? All of those things, that's all attached, right?
Yeah. And the ways that I make money and the ways that I want to make money. And like, if we think about it, money is an exchange for our time and our energy.
Yes.
Right. And so I want to exchange my energy in love and to receive the other exchange in love, like receive the money with love. Yeah. So it's been really interesting. Like, another area I came here to work on was my relationship with my dad, which has been, wow. Just a really interesting one. I've talked about it a ton on my podcast. Like, people who listen to my podcast just know that I've been working on this for a long time.
The dad issues podcast. Honestly, if I had a podcast, I'd probably be in all those camps.
And my dad even listens to my podcast, and
he does.
And he I'm sure he's heard me talk about it before. My relationship with him is one that I have been, it's really changed. Like, there's been a massive shift in the way that him and I relate to each other this year after 5. the first thing I did when I came home from the retreat, when I saw my dad, was I was in tears because I was so raw from the experience. Like I couldn't stop crying for a week, basically. I was just into it. I was like, oh, I have a client call. Okay. Wipe the tears.
Yeah, clean it up.
It was so beautiful, and it opened me up so much, and I was raw from that. And the first thing I did when I saw my dad was like, I was crying. I went up to him and I hugged him and I said, Dad, I don't want to fight with you anymore. Mm-hmm. I really don't. And even like just the vulnerability that it takes to say that and to connect with him in that way, when him and I didn't have that rapport, like it's almost like awkward in a way to like be vulnerable and loving with a parent who you're not connected with in that way. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I haven't had any arguments with my father this year, because I have, but there's been like 3.
And I guess there's also been a deeper level of humanity in the relationship in general, or after those arguments, or like in general, it's not the same. You're feeling more connected to him even when you're arguing. You know, like,
it resolves way quicker.
Exactly. Yeah.
He shows up differently. He apologized to me for something a couple months ago for the first time, ever.
It's always amazing to me how much the people around us change when we give them the space to do that. They get to do the work with us without having to do the work.
Exactly. I know. I always talk about this. I'm like, it's easy to blame other people for relationship dynamics, but like we hold so much power in changing relationships, because when we change ourselves, we change the way that we show up. And when we change the way that we show up, we give the other person an opportunity to also change 100%. The way that we show up. So I've seen that very clearly. I have so much love in my heart for my dad now that like it wasn't there before. Like I honestly had a hard time, like truly feeling love for my dad. And my clear intention with 5-MeO for that was like, help me to release the anger that I feel. And like, I really feel like that's gone. And because that's gone and I've cleared that energy, like I can really access love for him. And it's been beautiful. And I'm crying now.
That's amazing though. And I would suggest that love's always been there, but that anger was
fogging
like a box that it was in, you know? And part of when people talk about, like you talk about, I had excess energy in me, I had to release this energy. Part of that energy was actually love that's been suppressed for a long time. It's all the different energies that have been, we've been holding like this, and we need to be letting these things flow.
Well, this is why I think like the IFS that you guys, the internal family systems work that you guys infuse into Enfold is so amazing, because I think like that universal love energy that 5-MeO connects us with is, our true state, our true selves. And in IFS, they call it the self energy. And that's something that cannot be destroyed. It cannot go away. It's always there. It's always present, and it's in all of us. And so all of the human stuff creates this fog between who we truly are, which is that unconditional, infinite love, and, our human self. And so, it's been a journey of just living from that place, honestly.
Yeah. I love that.
I think that's like how I would summarize it all.
And I mean, to me, it's been really evident externally, like seeing your journey, and also just hearing you say, and a lot of facing my limiting patterns and coming up against those and being really comfortable with that, with the, like you said, the gremlins. I think a lot of people think that it's supposed to be just blissful and easy, and I'm just going to be connected to love all the time. Well, that's not how it works. No. We have deeply rooted habits that are going to continually come up, and the work is actually just being aware of those, loving that that's there, and working through it, and allowing, continually coming back. Yeah,
it's like that love is the anchor, but then we're still human, right? And we still, like sometimes I'm fully in my ego, like 100%. With all the fashion stuff. It's like, oh, I'm fully in my ego right now, like fully. And that's okay. You can consciously choose to be in your ego, because I just think of ego as like your human personality.
Well, yeah, it's the part of you that gets to enjoy the duality of life as well.
Exactly.
It's so funny. I can be in an argument with Austin or something. We can be in like a little tiff, and I can, like, part of me is, my ego is like,
wait, you guys argue? Wait, you're not perfect?
Oh, wait,
what?
Let's cut that. Let's cut that part. But like, we'll be in a little thing, and half of me will be caught in my ego arguing, and the other half of me will be going,
yeah,
look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, this is so silly.
Yeah.
It's just really interesting to have that level of awareness, and but it just gives you this opportunity to come back so quickly.
Yeah.
You know? And the goal is just to continually track and dismantle that bullshit before it even happens. And sometimes it's just going to happen because humans are humans. We get tired, we get stressed, right? Like,
sometimes we don't sleep, get enough nourishment.
We have too much going on, and we just
Yeah.
don't have the bandwidth at that moment to relax enough.
Yeah. As you're talking, what's coming to me is, it's like a tether to love is strengthened with this medicine. Like, it's like you're always tethered to it, and you're much closer to it, and you can see it much more clearly. Yeah.
People that have the hardest journeys with this medicine, it's because they're resisting love the hardest. Like, they have the most, their ego has the most to lose, or is worried that much. And that's what the hard trip is. Right. The hard trip is the pain and the darkness and the tension of not allowing that love to flow through them, or to feel that love from within them.
Yeah. I worked through so much of the pain and darkness before 5-MeO, which is probably why I had the experience that I did.
Yeah.
I feel like that's important to mention for people. Yeah. Because everyone's experience is so incredibly different.
Yeah.
And I imagine if I came to 5-MeO 3 years ago, it would have been a completely different experience, where it probably would have been a lot darker.
It's interesting because, I'd say about 20% of folks that come to see us haven't worked with psychedelics before, but they've done enough inner work, spiritual work, therapy. They've done the gremlin research so that they can actually work through that. I'm using your term now, so it's just gremlins now.
Yeah.
But I do think, particularly Iboga and Ibogaine is an incredible combination of doing that medicine I would say about anywhere from 6 to 12 months before coming to see us. Every time that we've worked with somebody who's gone through that, it's always this remarkable thing. Like, people just get way more out of this medicine if they've done that medicine before.
I saw an article on the internet that said, it was like, could Iboga plus 5-MeO DMT be the 1-2 punch of psychedelics? Which I thought was really clever.
But I actually kind of think that's true.
Yeah.
Like, I do think that there's certain things that Iboga does and Ibogaine do that nothing else does. And then 5-MeO to me is in its own category entirely. But the combination of those two is, like, it's undeniable from where I sit. It's undeniable, especially when there's some space. Like, I know a lot of people are serving Ibogaine and then serving 5 like a day or two later.
I know.
Which to me, like, I get the instinct, and we've had a number of people who did 5-MeO at Ibogaine clinics and came to see us after, because the 5-MeO is almost like an afterthought. It's like, hey, take this vitamin C today to make you feel better. Instead, it's 5-MeO. And it's kind of like, it's not really considered properly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel like, oh, I feel like I opened a door, but I didn't close it. I didn't finish. It just started this whole other thing I wasn't expecting.
I'm just imagining, like, the nervous system after,
100%.
like, especially if you go through like a huge journey with Ibogaine or Iboga, which most people do.
I mean, I haven't heard anybody not go through a pretty big journey.
Yeah. And then coming out of that, and then just like doing, I did an episode on Iboga versus 5-MeO DMT, because they're such opposites.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like, I always think of the yin and yang.
Yeah.
They're like the yin and yang of psychedelics to me. Yeah. Complete opposites, but together they create the whole, the whole picture of what it means to be human.
Yeah. But I think having a few months at least to process, if we think of, I kind of think of Iboga as the dark part of the yin yang.
The psyche.
Right. The psyche. It's more shadow work. It's more really rooting that up. And I guess that I think it's important to have time to sit with that before you try and Like, I think the idea when people do both back to back is, oh, let's do the dark work, but then let's just flush it out with 5-MeO. And I think that's underestimating what 5-MeO is really doing in some ways too. But that's interesting, that the 1-2 punch of psychedelics. I actually think that feels right to me. And I think that it's not, all the other medicines contribute. Like your whole journey has been working with mushrooms, working, I'm sure, with, different medicines to elevate and get to a place where iboga was time and 5-MeO was time. And
it's kind of like everything's been preparing. It's like mushrooms prepared me for ayahuasca prepared me for iboga prepared me for 5-MeO. So
100%. I want to come back to something though around the integration side, because I'm just curious, what supports did you feel like were most important to you going through the integration? Because I think it's important that people know integration is really intense and can be quite dysregulating. This medicine being at the peak of the pyramid, as we were just talking about, means that it's the most dysregulating medicine. What do you feel like were the practices or safeguards or supports that you had in place that when that dysregulation felt like it was tumbling over you, like what kept you clear and what kept you tethered?
Well, at the beginning, the beginning, as in the first 1 to 3 months, looks very different than after that.
Totally.
I would say that there was a lot more intentional practice in the first 1 to 3 months, especially that first month. The meditation, the intuitive movement and stretching, and just like being with the body, the journaling, and I would say like being in nature. Nature has just been like my biggest thing this year. I've been out on more walks this year than ever before. Just like getting outside, breathing fresh air is so calming and regulating to me. So I would say like that's been like my biggest tool, so to speak. There's been times where like I had to reach out to you, and that was always like in a moment of like, that was always in a moment of, it's it's like SOS. There's been a few times of reaching out that were incredibly helpful. And sometimes just whether it's like you or a coach or a therapist, like just like reaching out to someone and having someone just like see you and just like be that mirror for you and just let you know that it's okay, it's normal. And like also look at how far you've already come and just like pause, slow down. It's okay. That's incredibly, incredibly helpful. I've also just like, this started happening after iboga, I would say, but even more with 5-MeO, I feel like I've like completely released trying to be some like wellness superstar person who does all the things. I currently don't have a morning routine, which is probably crazy to some people. My morning routine now is to sleep in until my body naturally wants to wake up. And I have found that like sleep is everything. Like I would rather let my body sleep than wake up early so that I have time to do a meditation or a breathwork session or a journaling session or whatever. For me, that seems to be really working. Like I can just sleep and rest, and it's all just me trusting the body and allowing the body, the nervous system, the somatics to just do what they want to do, which I feel like is such an integration of the ceremony.
100%.
Yeah.
The best way to think about integration is to do things slowly or do slow things. If you just remember that, then you're good. But the morning routine thing is funny because it came up on our community call last week or earlier this week. And the topic was self-love. And I just started talking about the fact that part of my self-love is remembering that I am nature. Like remembering that, and nature isn't a static state all the time. And nature isn't exactly the same every day. And nature, and we go through cycles and we go through phases.
Nature moves slow.
And sometimes nature moves slow and sometimes it moves fast. And I go through a few months where I love to wake up early and do a bunch of things in the morning.
Yes.
And other times I don't do anything. I just wake up and roll out of bed and drink a cup of decaf coffee and start typing because that's what I feel like doing, or go for a quick walk or something short.
And then that voice is like, how could you just like wake up and get right into work, right?
I've let that go.
Good for you.
I've let that go because I think we need to honor our natural cycles.
Yeah.
And I think there's certain things that we should be rigorous about and disciplined about, but not everything.
Yeah, it's kind of that like biohacking bro approach to life where it's just like being very regimented. And I've been through that. Like I've been into wellness and personal growth forever. Like I've been through so many morning routines, and oh my gosh, it feels like such a relief to just let that all go
100%.
and know that like just resting is enough.
Resting is a practice.
Resting is enough. I rest so much. Like I actually watch so much TV with the intention of resting. And then I'll have some weekends where I'm like out in Toronto all weekend with my friends dancing and staying up late and doing all the things. But it's about honoring the cycles. For women especially, we have a 28-day cycle. And there's just parts of that cycle where we have more energy and more creativity and more flow. And there's parts of that cycle where we don't. So yeah, I would say that this integration period has been, a moment of like really honoring and tuning into that. And then, there's the limiting beliefs part, like identifying what the mind is saying to me in that moment, because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, what's the story?
Yeah. What's the story? I'll never be successful. All the successful people in the world like wake up at 6 a.m. and do the things, and just like letting that go.
100%.
Like it just goes back into resting into being. Truly.
I love that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you mentioning reaching out to people. And this is something we always tell everybody that comes to see us is reach out anytime. But people, like you said, or sometimes you're nervous to reach out. But I feel like staying tethered to folks is really important. And I also think, I just always like to say this, that if you're going to go seek a big medicine experience, seek it with people that are willing to support you afterwards. We help a lot of people who reach out to us who've had 5 experiences elsewhere who just get ghosted. Right. And then you've also been to a lot of the community calls. Like, I'm curious what that experience is like, or how that contributes to things.
I find it such an important way to stay connected to the impact of the medicine.
Yeah.
I love this medicine so much. I really, really do. And I'm so excited about it. And I'm so grateful to be connected to you and Austin, who are just like world leaders in this medicine, and to be learning from you and sharing about it with you. And so the community calls for me are a way to stay connected to that medicine, because I definitely don't think that my work with it is done. And I think that it's going to be a beautiful relationship. And I've already received so much from it, and I can't wait to see what more there is to explore. Next, but I'm also like horrified of going in again, which apparently is very common. People are more scared of the second than the first experience.
I think so. I think the second is just a different ball game. And I wonder if after that, it sort of levels out a little bit, but second time is a big one.
Okay.
Yeah. And partially you don't know what you don't know the first time you go in. And the second time you think you know what you don't know, or you think you know what you know. Like there's a lot of second guessing or thinking, is it going to be like the last time? It's really hard to let go of the expectation of it's going to be like that the first time or the second time. What advice would you give to someone who is either considering 5-MeO or preparing, like in that early stage?
Take it seriously. Take it seriously, because this really has the potential to change the entire direction of your life. And the nuance in that is that actually your life might look the exact same as it always has been, but you are so transformed and different. And then over time, those outer things will start falling into place to match the energetic and inner shift that has been created. And again, like in the work that I do as a coach and even facilitating now, it's like all about creating those inner shifts. But half of that work, I think, is trusting and knowing that those inner shifts will just allow everything to fall into place in your life. Like I feel like I have a sticky note on my computer right now that says things are falling into place. Like I think we talked about that last time when we chatted on the phone. It's like, it literally just feels like things are just like, just like kind of everything's just lining up, and all I have to do is stay regulated. So taking it seriously and going into it with not an expectation, but knowing that you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And I would say just like making space for serious integration and making space for space, making space to just like be and to be with yourself and to get to know the new energetic frequency that you have tapped into. Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the underlying lessons. I feel like in the way you've spoken about your integration for folks is coming out. You know, you said for a week, you just wanted to cry every day. And I'm sure there's been lots of different iterations of that kind of just natural energy flow that you get into. You start to realize this is the natural me, how I move, what needs to move. And it's more acute at the beginning and it becomes more leveled out as you move on. But that to me is a really important lesson. I think also is you're not broken if you feel more emotional. In fact, that's the gift of this experience. And to honor that and to welcome that and not to feel like you need to suppress that or be normal again, because actually you're trying to get away from that normal box you're in, which to me is like just getting back to your actual true self and your energetic self. Lastly, I feel like you've now stepped into some different aspects of work, and we were talking earlier about some of what you've stepped into feels like a direct result of the shifts in your nervous system. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So like most people who do medicine work, I felt very called early on to be on the other side. To serve medicine and to do that. And especially the first year of like drinking ayahuasca, it was like, I just want to be up there, you know, I want to be over there. And I realized at some point that I was not ready for that. And it was coming from a place of being so uninformed of what it takes to be on the other side. Like it's truly been like the hero's journey framework. Like it's truly like there was the call and then I realized how hard it would be and how much work goes into it. And then there's like the refusal of the call and like questioning it and being like, I don't know actually. Like, do I really want to give up my whole entire life or like really not give up my whole entire life because you get a new sense of life with doing this work. But am I ready for my life to revolve around being being in that role? And especially seeing like how you guys work here and like just knowing how much your life revolves around the work that you do. Like it's truly like it's service work, right? And so there was the refusal of the call. And then after 5-MeO, I felt very strongly, intuitively coming from the self, not coming from the ego. Like it felt like such a clear line in the sand for me of, no, you're actually ready now to start holding space for people in this way. And so the missing piece of that really was the nervous system piece, because you can't hold space for someone to crack open in a big way and to sit with them in their discomfort and their darkness and even in their bliss and their joy if you are not tethered to yourself and relaxed and non-reactive and seeing how you and Austin work in a very non-dogmatic, clear, gentle way really inspired me to see that like, oh, I actually don't have to like be some like neo shaman person or even necessarily carry a lineage. For so long, I thought, you know, to be a facilitator, I have to carry a lineage. And it was so amazing to meet 5-MeO that doesn't really have a lineage, but then to see, wow, how effective and direct it can be and like how powerful it is to create such an intentional, clear space to do that work. So that expanded me into seeing that actually I do have everything that I need to be able to do this. And so, now we are answering the call, stepping into it very slowly. This last year, I've started facilitating first with like a co-facilitator, and I've recently just started holding private ceremonies for people. And Yeah, I just had one a few days before I came here, and there was a moment where my client was just really deep in it, the headphones on, eye mask on, and I was literally just holding the space. And I just had this moment of like, wow, holy fuck, I'm doing it.
This is happening, right?
This is happening.
Yeah.
And it just felt like it didn't feel charged. It was just like, this is what I'm doing, and it feels right. Yeah. Yeah. I thought I was ready after Iboga, but the I was ready, like psychologically I was ready.
Yeah.
As in I had done my healing work, and
Right.
I would probably not be like triggered, and I had the coaching background to step into it, but my nervous system was not ready. Yeah.
Oh, I love people ask a lot, what does it mean to be good as a facilitator or like to lead this kind of work? And to me, the most unteachable thing is your nervous system in good shape? And part of that is self-care and taking care of yourself, but part of it is the work that it takes to get to a place where you're regulated. And not that I'm always regulated, no one is, but that when it comes to it, you're regulated. And so part of that to me is like all the work that leads up to being in that place. And then after that, I think of it as the same way LeBron James or something has to train all the time just so that for 90 minutes, or I don't know how long basketball games are. I'm using basketball analogy, but I have no idea. But I don't know. Yeah. Just for that amount of time when they get on the court, everything is dialed, right?
Yes.
They're at peak performance for that amount of time. Yeah. And what you don't see is like the other 95% of their time, which is training and resting.
Yeah.
And similar to what you said, like this is a lifestyle that you step into. I think to do it at a high level is stepping into a lifestyle where all of your personal choices about what you put in your body, how you spend your time, how you expend your energy, all those things.
The side quest.
Yeah, all the side quests you're talking about. Like all of that plays into when you show up on the mat for somewhere or with somebody in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. Essentially,
in the zone.
Our clients are paying us to stay regulated and calm and non-reactive, to hold space for them. That's right. Kind of how I think of it. Yeah.
I also love that you said like, when you were first doing ayahuasca, you're like, I want to be up there. And I think for a lot of people, it's actually one of the most easy ways for the ego to be like, I don't need to do this work. I should be up there. Or it's a way of deflecting. It's a way of being like, I don't need this, you need this, or whatever, and switching it up. And I see so many people do ayahuasca or do something like that once or twice and go, yeah, I'm now leading that, because it's a way of saying, I don't have any work to do. And then you realize like everyone has work to do, but there's a funny flip that happens for a lot of people. So I love that you mentioned that, and that you've now reached a point where it's not coming from you. It's just, now is the time. Now I've actually reached that place where I can serve. Yeah. In a sort of clear way. Yeah. Right.
And there was so much resistance to it this year, even like, cause knowing you in Austin more deeply now, I'm like, I feel like I see the behind the scenes a little bit of like what it takes to do this work. And I mean, I only aspire to be as skilled and amazing as you two are in doing what you do one day. And like definitely see you both as mentors and teachers in the realm of facilitation and so many other things. But yeah, just like seeing the behind the scenes of what that takes and the sacrifices made. I mean, that to me was such a wake up call of like, are you really sure that you want to do this? Yeah. Yeah. So we're stepping into it very, very slowly.
That's what very slowly. I think that's really lovely the way you're stepping into it. That's how we did too. It started as there's a calling here. Actually, this land told us that we were doing this, and it evolved. But it didn't start with, we're building a thing and we're going to call it this. And here's how many, we had no plan for better part of 3 or 4 years. We agreed that we are not making a plan. We are just following this. It's a trickle, and then it turns into a flow, and then it turns into a river. But to treat it naturally. Look at
what you've created.
Like what the universe is calling us into, you know? Yeah. I love that. And then you spoke lastly just about the clear container component of it, and realizing you don't need to be bring shamanic elements. And I feel like, you know, there's certain medicines that do have lineage and that they can be honored in a certain way, or should be, or I don't know what the right term is. I agree. And there's also something like when I think about mushrooms, when I think about MDMA, when I think about 5, when I think about a lot of the substances, there's also no one lineage. Mushrooms have been around for 10,000 years and been used by almost every culture on earth. So to me, there's a lot of opportunity to find what your flavor is and be really authentic to who you are. Because I think honestly, the more authentic we are to who we are, the more we transmit to others and the more we offer. And like, to me, my vision for this space is always that there are thousands of people doing it in their way that creates the perfect little niche for the people that resonate with you, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to, and not pretending you're something else at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's what I love about Enfold. I feel like it is a direct extension of who you and Austin are. And like every little detail is an expression of one or both of your gifts and talents. Like it's just like, to me, Enfold is an expression of 5-MeO. It's like an expression of the highest state of consciousness and being. And I feel the presence and the inspiration of the medicine behind every detail here. Like I don't know. I just so inspired by you both in just like a facilitation perspective, with
you.
like what you've created and how much like you've truly created it from nothing, from yourselves.
Yeah.
Not from nothing, from who you are. Like it's truly come from you and through you. And it's just, just incredible. Yeah.
It's funny you were talking about lineage, and you're right. 5 doesn't really have a traditional lineage. So in some ways we've been talking about it as what we're doing here is developing a lineage for it. But as you were speaking, the words that came to mind, and they just like, these aren't my words. It's like, oh no, it's the universal lineage of love.
Yes, exactly.
That's what we're teaching, or that's what's coming through us. That's what we tapped into. So there is a lineage there.
I completely agree.
Just kind of allowing it to unfold.
Yeah, and you're doing a dance with it. You're trying 100%. To understand it. You're channeling it. You're expressing it in the physical realm. Yeah, that totally checks out to me. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything we haven't covered? I feel like we've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Any questions or anything that comes to mind for you?
No. If I want to just say some last words. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, I'm just so grateful to have had this experience and to have met you and Austin and just this land also. And
wow, thank you.
Yeah, I think that what you guys are doing is incredible and grounded and human and just, it's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm just like looking around at the space right now and I think that you guys are definitely leading something really special here. And
thank you.
Hope that you continue to do it.
I appreciate that, Lana.
Yeah.
And I'll say too that when we first started talking about collaborating in the way we have, which has been very organic, it's not like but it's the only time we've ever done something like this. And it's because I think you've been so authentic in how you talk about your own journey and so educational and so helpful to people. And to me, it's like your coaching work and the way that has just blossomed in the last couple of years. And now stepping into the facilitation work you're doing, to me, it's like right on time. It's perfect. And it's like a really beautiful gift.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's, part of the community and that makes Enfold what it is. Yeah. They're a big part of it. Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm sad that this is over. It's been so fun.
I know. Let's do 20 more.
Let's do part 2.
But thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah.